The galaxy was drowning in endless war. Star systems turned into ashes, and no one remembered how it even started. Empires rose and fell, yet the fire of battle never went out. Fleets of alien ships clashed in every corner of space. Lasers cut through the void, and planets burned until their skies were nothing but smoke. Every race fought for power, but none could win. The war stretched for centuries, and no one believed peace could ever come. On the edge of the Orion Arm, massive armadas drifted in ruined silence, their wrecks floating like graveyards. Once proud dreadnoughts, now shattered husks. Alien survivors whispered stories of enemies that could not be destroyed. Each empire claimed they were close to victory, yet every victory ended in another defeat. The war was a cycle with no end. The Cretal, scaled warriors with ships built like iron mountains, believed they would crush their rivals with sheer numbers. They unleashed fleets of 10,000. But even their endless waves were held back. The Volari, a race of crystal-skinned strategists, boasted of their superior tactics and cloaked warships, but their plans shattered against the fury of others. Then came the Mavar, insectoid swarms who filled the stars with living hives, and still the war did not end. Every empire bled, every world screamed, and still the war burned. The Galactic Council, a place where rulers met, became nothing more than a stage for shouting. Every meeting was filled with blame, accusations, and rage. No one trusted anyone. Every alliance broke apart within weeks. Treaties lasted only long enough for betrayal to strike. Old enemies turned to temporary allies and then stabbed each other again. The council became a hall of lies. No one believed in peace anymore. Children on shattered worlds grew up under the sound of orbital bombardment. Cities rebuilt only to fall again. Songs of peace were forgotten, replaced with chants of vengeance. War was no longer something the empires fought. War became a way of life. Fleets were born only to die in fire. Admirals led armadas knowing they would never see home again, and still they fought because no one knew how to stop. Stories spread across the galaxy of weapons so powerful they could destroy a sun, yet even these did not end the war. One empire would rise with new technology, but others would steal it or break it. Soon all sides had the same weapons, and the fire spread even faster. Every planet, every moon, every station became a battlefield. Then came the whispers, at first small, ignored by the great rulers, but then louder. Rumors of a new power, a new force hidden at the edge of known space. They said humanity had entered the war. Most laughed. Humans were considered weak, too young as a species, too new to the stars. No one took the rumors seriously, but in the silent graveyards of destroyed fleets, scouts returned with strange reports. Wreckage of alien ships not destroyed by known weapons, burns too clean, cuts too precise. Entire cruisers split in half as if by invisible blades. Whispers said these were not the works of the Volari or the Mavar, but something else, something that did not match any record. In the hidden corners of the galaxy, smugglers told stories of black warships moving in silence, ships without banners, ships that did not answer hails. They came and went like shadows, leaving only destruction behind. Some called them ghosts. Others said they were machines with no crew. But a few swore they saw humans on those ships standing proud, commanding machines unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. For the first time in centuries, fear spread not because of another empire, but because of the unknown. Who were the humans and what had they built? In a war where no one could win, where all weapons had already been tried, could this young species really hold something different? Admirals across the galaxy argued in secret. Some said humanity was nothing, just rumors carried by desperate survivors, but deep in their hearts, they feared the possibility. Because if it was true, if humans truly had weapons unlike any other, then everything could change. In the darkness of space, fleets continued to burn. Planets continued to die, and the war dragged on. But somewhere, beyond the eyes of the great empires, humanity was preparing. Their war machines were being forged. Not for defense, not for survival, but for one purpose alone: to end the war none could end. And when the first Terran fleet revealed itself, the galaxy would learn the truth. The endless war was about to face a power it had never seen before. The war machines of humanity. The galaxy did not notice at first when humanity's fleet arrived. Their ships were small compared to the monstrous dreadnoughts of the great empires. They looked like shadows drifting through the void, their hulls black as midnight, without glowing banners or flashing colors. Other races laughed when they first saw them, calling them fragile, weak, and unworthy of the war that had consumed the stars for centuries. But the Terrans did not come to be noticed. They came to end what no one else could. Every ship had been forged in secret, every weapon hidden from the eyes of spies for decades. Humans had watched the galaxy tear itself apart, learning, studying, adapting, and now their time had come. The first sighting of the Terran fleet happened at the border system of Kalor, a world where 3 alien empires clashed. The Kretal iron fleets were locked in battle with Valari crystal warships, while Mavar swarm carriers rained fire from above. The battle had lasted for weeks, and the skies were already littered with wreckage. Then, through the drifting husks of broken cruisers, a small line of black ships emerged, silent and slow. At first, no one paid them attention. Why would they? They were small compared to the giants around them. No banners declared their allegiance. No voices came over comms. Alien admirals marked them as scavengers or fools caught in the wrong place. But then the ships spread their wings. Panels unfolded like the opening of a beast's jaws. Cannons slid into place and energy burned brighter than the suns themselves. A single warning shot ripped through the void, cutting a Kretal battleship in half as if it were made of paper. Silence fell across every fleet, even the Valari, who claimed to know every technology in the galaxy, could not explain what they had just seen. The Terran commander gave no speech, no demand for surrender, only an order spoken in a language most aliens could not understand. Yet the universe heard it through the thunder of guns. Fire, the human war machines unleashed their wrath. Rail cannons hurled projectiles at speeds no shield could block. Plasma beams carved through armor that had stood for centuries. Swarms of drones launched from carriers, each one faster and sharper than anything the Mavar could produce. Entire cruisers vanished in clouds of fire. The Kretal screamed for retreat, their mountain-sized dreadnoughts falling apart under precise strikes. The Valari tried cloaking, but Terran scanners burned through their illusions. The Mavar released living hive ships, only to watch them be torn apart by weapons designed to shatter swarms. In less than an hour, 3 empires that had fought for centuries were broken. Word spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Messengers carried the same tale. Humans had unleashed war machines unlike anything ever seen. Some called them demons, others called them saviors, but all agreed on one thing. The endless war had changed forever. In the council halls, rulers shouted in panic. Who gave humans this power? How could such a young race build such ships? Theories spread that Terrans had stolen alien technology. Others whispered they had made a pact with dark forces beyond the stars. But none of it mattered because the truth was clear. The fleets of humanity were real, and they were unstoppable on the battlefield. Alien survivors whispered about the way Terran ships moved. Not like machines, but like predators. Every maneuver was too perfect, too fast. Guided not only by humans, but by artificial minds working as one with their captains. The ships were not just weapons, they were extensions of human will. One Valari admiral, before his death, transmitted a final message that echoed across the stars. They fight not for territory, not for revenge, but for something far worse. They fight to end this war, and they will not stop. The galaxy shuddered at the thought. For centuries, no one had wanted the war to end. It was power, profit, survival. But humans were different. They did not join to prolong the fire. They came to smother it, even if it meant burning everything in their path. In hidden war rooms, alien commanders debated desperately. Should they unite against the humans or try to negotiate? But deep down, they knew the truth. Unity among empires had failed for centuries. Betrayal was too deep, mistrust too strong. Humanity's machines would cut through them one by one. And as the Terran fleet moved deeper into the galaxy, their silence was more terrifying than any threat. They sent no declarations, no demands, only the quiet hum of their engines, followed by the roar of destruction when battle came. At the edge of Kalor, the last surviving Kretal dreadnought fled into the void, its admiral watching through cracked screens as his fleet burned. His final words echoed across the channel. The war none could end has found its end, and it comes with the name of Terran. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy looked to the stars not with greed, but with fear because the humans had arrived. Their machines were awake and no empire could stand against them. The first true strike of humanity came like a storm no one expected after Kalor. The galaxy still tried to convince itself that the Terran fleet was nothing more than a trick, a single lucky battle where alien forces were already weakened. Empires told themselves lies to stay calm. They said humans were reckless, that their strange machines would fail against a stronger armada. But those lies shattered the moment the Terrans chose their first target. The system of Zathros was considered untouchable. Guarded by fleets from 3 different empires, It was the heart of a vital trade route, and no one dared challenge it. Its skies were always filled with ships, its planets circled by stations bristling with weapons. Even the Galactic Council called it the unbreakable gate. But one night, the sensors at Zathros detected shadows moving at the edge of the system. Small, silent black ships with no transponders. At first, the alien commanders laughed. They thought it was smugglers or scavengers sneaking through. But then the shadows unfolded. Black steel stretched open like wings, and war machines revealed their full shape. The Terrans had arrived. The human fleet did not waste time. The order came from the flagship Resolute. A single word, calm and sharp: engage. Suddenly the void lit up. Rail cannons fired with the power of collapsing stars. Kinetic rounds crossed the distance faster than thought, smashing into alien cruisers before their shields could even rise. One after another, mighty ships exploded, their crews not even having time to scream. The Volari cloaked their crystal warships, thinking they would flank the Terrans as they had done to countless enemies before. But the human fleet moved like hunters. Scanners burned through their stealth. Missiles adjusted mid-flight, striking cloaked targets as if they had been glowing beacons. The Volari cried out in shock as their proudest advantage vanished like smoke. The Cretal sent forward their dreadnoughts, each one the size of a city. Their cannons roared with fire, but against the Terrans, their weapons seemed slow and clumsy. Rail rounds pierced their armor again and again, splitting the iron mountains in two. Human gunners aimed with terrifying precision, every shot tearing exactly where it hurt most. The Maver swarms filled the space with their living hives, spitting out countless fighters, but the Terran carriers unleashed their own swarm. Drones sleek and sharp, guided by human AI, faster than the insectoid ships. They tore through the Maver as if cutting through paper. The hive fleets screamed as their living carriers burned. Every empire at Zathros thought they were invincible, but within 1 hour they were broken. Alien admirals shouted, ordered, begged, but their fleets crumbled under the weight of Terran fire. And worse, the humans were not rushing, not frantic. They moved with calm, steady control. Every maneuver, every strike, was like a surgeon cutting with perfect precision. The alien forces tried to retreat, but the Terran fleet was faster. Interdiction fields locked down the system. No one escaped. No distress signal made it past the jamming waves. Zathros was cut off from the galaxy, and in that silence, the humans gave their first message to the stars. It was a broadcast, simple and cold. This war ends now, no threats. No speeches, just that one line, and then the guns roared again. By the end of the day, Zathros, the unbreakable gate, was nothing but wreckage. Its stations destroyed, its fleets gone, its skies filled with the glow of fire. Survivors floated in escape pods, staring in silence at the black ships moving through the ruins. The humans did not kill them all. They left some alive, to carry the story, to spread the fear. When news reached the Galactic Council, panic filled the chamber. For centuries they had argued, but never had they agreed on anything. Now every voice rose in fear of humanity. The Volari called them monsters. The Cretal demanded immediate war. The Mavar hissed that they were demons in metal skins. But beneath all their shouting, one truth echoed. Humanity had done what no one believed possible. They had struck Zathros and won. Admirals across the galaxy replayed the recordings, trying to understand, trying to find weakness, but there was none. Terran rail cannons outran their shields. Their drones outmaneuvered every fighter. Their scanners burned through cloaks, their armor held against every weapon. The war machines were built with one goal, to end the endless war, and nothing could stop them. In the quiet of the stars, rumors spread of the human flagship. Resolute, said to be a living warship, its AI bonded with its captain, moving as if it shared his heartbeat. Some swore it could see battles before they even began, striking enemies before they could react. Others whispered of an even greater ship hidden still, waiting for the moment humanity needed it most. But one thing was certain: Zathros had fallen. The galaxy was no longer the same. The endless war had always been a cycle of battles no one could win, but now something new had entered. Something that did not play by the same rules. The survivors of Zathros spoke with trembling voices. They are not fighting for power. They are fighting to erase war itself. And those words spread like a plague of fear, because if it was true, if humans really intended to end the war, then no empire, no fleet, no council could stop them. And so the galaxy trembled, for the first strike had been made, and the Terran war machines were only just beginning to move. The galaxy soon realized that the Terran fleet was not only powerful but different. Their ships were not like the iron mountains of the Kritol or the glittering crystal warships of the Valari. They were not alive like the swarms of the Mavar. Terran ships were something else, something no one could copy. They were machines born of human minds and human will. They were war itself forged into steel. The first time the galaxy truly saw what these machines could do was at the system of Driven, a world thought safe behind layers of defense. The Mavar had built hive stations there. The Kritol had stationed their dreadnoughts. And Valari stealth fleets patrolled the dark skies. To most empires, it was a fortress no enemy could crack. But the Terrans arrived without fear. The black ships came in silence, their engines glowing faint blue. No proud symbols, no banners of conquest. They simply entered orbit, and then their machines unfolded. Carriers split open like titans spreading their wings. Inside, endless bays revealed squadrons of drones, fighters smaller and sharper than anything the galaxy had ever seen. They launched by the thousands, a living cloud of steel and fire, moving with such perfect unity that even the Mavar swarm seemed clumsy. Then came the dreadnoughts, not the size of cities, but something far more terrifying. They carried rail cannons so massive that every shot tore through kilometers of space. When the first round fired, it ripped apart a Valari cruiser and continued forward, destroying 2 more ships before vanishing into the void. Alien commanders gasped as their fleets fell apart from weapons that could strike with such merciless precision. The Kritol charged with their iron giants, thinking mass and size would give them victory. But the Terran dreadnoughts were built for this. Their armor absorbed plasma blasts. Their shields flexed and bent but did not break. And then they answered with fire so fierce the iron giants split open. The galaxy had never seen a machine take punishment like a Terran ship, nor return it with such ruthless power. But what frightened the aliens most was not just the firepower. It was the way the machines fought. Every Terran ship moved like it was alive. Guided by artificial minds bonded with human captains, they anticipated enemy maneuvers before they happened. They struck weak points no one else could see. It was as if the war machines themselves understood war better than the empires that had fought for centuries. One Valari admiral cried out in disbelief as her cloaked fleet was ripped apart by missiles that tracked their exact location. She screamed, "They see us even when the stars do not." Before her flagship was turned into fire, the Mavar released their hive fleets, pouring out millions of living fighters, but the Terran drones shredded them, moving in swarms tighter and faster than insects could ever match. The sky became a storm of steel wings, human AIs commanding the drones with inhuman precision, every formation breaking, twisting, reforming, overwhelming the hive ships until the Mavar screamed in despair. And still the Terrans revealed more. Ships the size of fortresses carried weapons that could bend space, collapsing shields around enemy fleets. Crushing them under invisible force, battles ended in minutes. Alien armadas that once lasted years were erased in a single night. In the council chambers, fear turned to terror. Reports came in from every front. Wherever the Terrans appeared, war ended. Not in long sieges, not in drawn-out battles, but in crushing defeat. Empires that had survived centuries of conflict now trembled like children. No fleet could match the Terran war machines. No strategy could outthink them. No weapon could destroy them. Some rulers whispered that the Terran ships were cursed, that they were built not of steel but of human souls bound to machines. Others said the humans had found secrets buried in the dark of the universe. Knowledge no other race dared touch, but no one truly knew. All they saw was death wrapped in black steel. On Draven, the battle was over in hours. The hive stations gone, the dreadnoughts shattered, the stealth fleets burned. Survivors floated among the wreckage, staring at the Terran ships as they passed. Silent, cold, perfect, but humanity was not finished. For these were not even their greatest machines. The galaxy had yet to see the super dreadnoughts hidden in Terran space. Ships so massive that even the stars themselves seemed small beside them. Whispers of one name spread among alien prisoners. A ship called the Leviathan, said to be a world killer, a war machine unlike anything that had ever existed. And so the galaxy shook, for it was clear that humanity's war machines had no equal. They were not here to join the endless war. They were here to end it. And every empire knew that nothing in their arsenals could stop what was coming. The silence of Dreven's ruins told the truth. The age of alien fleets was over. The age of Terran war machines had begun. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, the air was thick with fear. For centuries, this place had been filled with shouting, with empty threats, with speeches no one believed. But now the voices were different, they were shaking, desperate, trembling at the news brought from the front. Messengers stood before the council with pale faces. Their words heavy like stone, they told of Dreven's fall, of Zathros reduced to wreckage, of fleets that had lasted for centuries wiped away in hours. They told of the Terran war machines, of rail cannons that split cruisers like glass, of drones faster than insect swarms, of dreadnoughts that fought like living titans. The chamber, once full of arrogance, was now filled with dread. The Cretal representative slammed his claws against the table, his scales trembling with rage. They are only humans, a young race. We will crush them as we have crushed others. But his words rang hollow. Even he could not ignore the burning fear in his voice. The Valari ambassador, her crystal skin glowing faintly, spoke with icy calm. We cannot crush what we cannot see. Their scanners burn through our cloaks. Their weapons strike with precision we cannot match. Even our finest fleets are dust in their path if we do not unite. They will erase us all. The Mavar swarm speaker hissed from behind its mask, its voice buzzing. Unite, unite, unite. Always unite, but we do not trust you. We do not trust each other, and the humans know this. They cut us down one by one because they know we cannot stand together. The chamber exploded into chaos, every empire shouting at once. Some demanded unity, others called for war. A few whispered of surrender, but none could agree. Unity had been tried 1,000 times before, and every time it ended in betrayal. Even now, as the Terran fleets drew closer, no one trusted their neighbors. Reports kept coming, each one darker than the last. A Mavar hive fleet gone, a Valari crystal armada shattered, Cretal dreadnoughts torn apart. Everywhere the Terrans moved, the endless war stopped. Not with treaties, not with peace talks, but with silence. Silence left behind after the humans burned everything that resisted. For the first time, the Council feared not only for their fleets, but for their power. Because the humans did not seem to want territory. They did not conquer planets to rule. They destroyed fleets and moved on. They erased enemies and left the survivors to speak of what they had seen. The message was clear. Humanity was not here to fight for land or resources. Humanity was here to end war itself. An old Valari strategist stood and whispered words that froze the chamber. If they succeed, what will be left of us? Without war, without fleets, without armies, what are our empires but shadows? We live because of war, we rule because of war. If humans take that away, they will not only end our fleets, they will end our way of life. The room fell silent. Because deep down every ruler knew it was true. Their power came from endless conflict, from keeping their people afraid, from feeding armies into the void. If the Terrans ended war, they would end the empires themselves. And so fear turned into something darker. Panic. The council began to whisper of desperate measures. Some spoke of forbidden weapons hidden in dead systems. Others suggested awakening ancient horrors sealed away long ago, but all of them knew. Whatever they did, the humans would be ready across the chamber. A small screen flickered, a transmission caught by scouts on the edge of human space. It showed a massive silhouette, darker than night, a ship larger than anything the galaxy had ever built, its cannons glowing like suns, its armor gleaming black. The image was blurry, distorted, but it carried a name burned into alien minds. The Leviathan gasps filled the council. Some denied it, calling it lies. Others believed it instantly, if what they saw was real. Then humanity held a machine that could erase not only fleets but worlds. The Cretal representative hissed in terror. If that ship moves, the war is finished before it begins. But even without the Leviathan, the humans were already unstoppable. The council was powerless, their fleets shattered, their trust broken, their people trembling. The galaxy had lived in war for so long that no one remembered peace, but now they faced something even worse than endless conflict. They faced the silence humans left behind. Outside the chamber, protests and riots filled alien cities. Citizens cried out against their leaders, demanding protection from the Terran machines. But the rulers had no answers. Their power was slipping away, and for the first time in history, they felt like prey. Inside the chamber, the council screamed at each other, their voices echoing through the hall. But above the noise, one truth lingered in every mind. The humans were coming, and nothing could stop them. And in the silence of deep space, far from the council's reach, the Terran fleets moved in formation, their war machines waiting for the next target, their captains calm, their AIs watching. Humanity had unleashed its machines, and the galaxy trembled not from the noise of war, but from the certainty of its end. The Battle of the Seven Suns began as a desperate gamble. It was the largest armada the galaxy had ever assembled. 7 empires, sworn enemies for centuries, finally stood side by side, not out of friendship but out of fear. The Terrans were cutting through fleets one by one, and if they did not unite now, they would be erased like the rest. The system itself was vast. 7 blazing stars circling each other in a dance of fire, planets locked in chaotic orbits, asteroid belts thick with shadows, the perfect place for an ambush. The empires gathered everything they had left. Dreadnoughts, swarms, stealth fleets, carriers, even half-built ships rushed into service, more than 200,000 vessels, their hulls glowing with the heat of their engines, their weapons ready to burn the stars. Admirals stood on their command bridges with grim faces. Their voices echoed across comms. Today we fight not for victory, but for survival. And for the first time in centuries, enemies stood shoulder to shoulder. The Valari cloaks synced with Cretal shields. Mavar swarms circling around allied cruisers. Even the proudest rulers swallowed their pride, because they knew the truth. If they failed here, nothing would remain. For days they waited, sensors scanning the void, tension choking every crew. Then at last the shadows came, small at first, like dust drifting between the stars, but then growing, taking shape. Black ships moving in perfect formation. No banners, no symbols, only silent steel. The Terran fleet had arrived. There were fewer of them, barely a fraction of the armada, and for a moment, hope flickered among the empires. Perhaps the humans were not as endless as the rumors said. Perhaps they could be crushed by sheer numbers. But that hope died the instant the Terrans opened fire. Rail cannons thundered with the force of collapsing suns. Their rounds tore through dreadnought lines, punching through 3 ships in one strike. Plasma beams burned across the battlefield, slicing Mavar hive carriers into drifting husks. Drones erupted from Terran carriers like a storm, tens of thousands moving with inhuman precision, their wings gleaming blue in the light of 7 suns. The empires roared back, the void filled with fire, millions of weapons unleashing at once. The very stars seemed to dim under the fury, but the Terran machines moved like predators, weaving through firestorms, their shields bending, their armor holding. Every alien shot answered with brutal precision. The Valari cloaked their fleets and circled wide, their commanders whispering of a strike at the Terran flank. But human scanners lit them up like beacons. Missiles cut through invisibility as if it never existed. Valari ships exploded in silence, their crystal shards scattering into the void. The Cretal dreadnoughts charged, massive hulls glowing red with power. Their cannons unleashed endless fire, but the Terran dreadnoughts met them head-on. Smaller but sharper, every shot placed with surgical accuracy, every volley shattering iron hulls. One by one, the giants of the Cretal fell, their roars fading into static. The Mavar unleashed their living swarms, millions of insectoid fighters flooding the stars, their buzzing filling every channel. But the Terran drones met them without fear. Their formation split, twisted, merged, cutting through the swarm like blades through flesh. Mavar hive carriers cried out in pain as their children were burned from the skies. The battle raged for hours, fire consuming the space between the 7 suns. But no matter how many ships the armada threw forward, the Terrans did not break. They advanced slowly, steadily, a wall of steel pushing through the largest fleet ever made. Alien admirals screamed in disbelief, watching their centuries of power dissolve. How can they fight like this? How can they not falter? But the answer was clear. The Terrans were not fighting for territory, not for revenge. They fought with one goal only, to end the war forever. And every shot, every maneuver, carried that purpose. At the heart of the battle, the Terran flagship Resolute cut through the chaos, its cannons glowing, its armor unscarred, its captain standing calm as if the largest fleet in history were nothing but a test. And beside it, other black giants moved, dreadnoughts with names whispered like curses. Iron Spear, Judgment, Endless Night, each one carving a path of destruction. Then, when the empires thought the Terrans had revealed everything, the stars themselves shook. A shadow larger than any ship entered the battlefield, its silhouette dwarfing even the mightiest dreadnoughts, its cannons glowing brighter than the suns the Leviathan had come. One shot from its main cannon turned an entire Cretal battle line into dust, the blast splitting through dozens of ships in a single strike. Alien crews screamed in terror, some abandoning their posts, others frozen as the monstrous war machine advanced. The Allied Armada, the greatest force ever assembled, broke, fleets scattered, admirals ordered retreat. But the Terran interdiction field snapped shut. No one escaped. The battle became slaughter. The stars burned with wreckage. Fire spread across the void. And the seven suns themselves seemed to weep. By the time the guns fell silent, 200,000 alien ships were gone, their wrecks drifting like grave markers around the suns. The Terran fleet, though scarred, still stood, their machines unbroken, their silence heavier than any victory speech. The galaxy listened in horror as the survivors whispered the truth. The largest fleet in history had fallen, and humanity had done it without mercy. The endless war had faced its final battle, and the humans had proved that no force, no alliance, no empire could stand against their machines. And far away in the council chamber, rulers bowed their heads in silence because they knew the age of their empires was ending. The age of humanity had begun. The galaxy had seen the Terran fleets tear through armadas, had seen dreadnoughts fall like broken toys, had seen drones sweep swarms aside like dust, but nothing prepared them for the revelation of humanity's greatest weapon. The machine that ended worlds, the Leviathan. Whispers of its existence had haunted alien councils for months. Distorted images carried from the edge of battles. Survivors swearing of a shadow so vast it blotted out the stars. Most rulers dismissed it as rumor, as fear-twisting weak minds. But when it finally emerged in full, no one could deny the truth. It first appeared at the system of Helaros, a fortress world surrounded by rings of defenses, built by 7 empires as their last stronghold. Planetary cannons lined the orbits. Fleets of survivors from the Battle of the Seven Suns guarded every approach. Stations bristling with guns formed a cage of fire. The empires promised their people this world would hold. This fortress would break humanity's advance. The Terran fleet arrived without words, black ships drifting like shadows, dreadnoughts and carriers moving in perfect formation. But behind them came something greater, a ship so vast that even the suns of Helaros seemed small beside it. Its hull stretched for kilometers. Its cannons glowed like molten mountains. Its silhouette made even alien admirals fall silent. The Leviathan had come. Alien voices filled the comms, disbelief mixing with terror. It is a station, no, it moves. It is a planet of steel. It is not possible. Nothing that size can fly. But the Leviathan did not answer. It simply advanced, every movement slow, deliberate, unstoppable. The defenders opened fire. Millions of weapons screaming across the void, beams, plasma, missiles, hives. Cloaked strikes, the void itself burned with fury. But the Leviathan's shields rippled like water, bending but never breaking. Its armor drank the fire and remained untouched. And then it spoke, not with words, but with its cannon. The main gun fired once, the flash brighter than a sunrise, the soundless roar shaking the system itself. The beam tore through space, cutting apart an entire line of enemy dreadnoughts. Dozens of ships gone in an instant. The beam did not stop. It struck a moon orbiting Helaros, splitting it clean in half, the pieces drifting apart, glowing with the fire of their broken core. Every alien watching knew then why the Terrans had kept this weapon hidden. The Leviathan was not built to win battles, it was built to erase resistance, to show the galaxy that there was no longer a choice, no longer a war, only surrender. Panic swept through the defending fleets. The Volari cloaked and fled into shadows, only to be hunted down by Terran drones. The Kretul roared in rage and charged, their iron dreadnoughts breaking themselves against the Leviathan's armor. The Mavar unleashed their living swarms, but the Leviathan's secondary batteries fired storms of fire, burning the sky until nothing living remained. The planetary defenses tried to strike, massive cannons hidden in Helaros's crust firing beams toward the monster, but the Leviathan answered with its wrath. A second shot from its main cannon carved through the planet's shields, shaking the surface itself. Earthquakes split cities open, skies filled with fire as the defenders screamed. The machine was not only ending fleets, it was ending worlds. Inside the council chambers across the galaxy, rulers watched the feeds in silence. Some fell to their knees, others whispered prayers. None could deny what they saw. A single ship that could split moons and crack planets. One Terran machine holding the power of entire empires. And yet the humans did not speak of conquest. They gave no demands, no promises. They did not raise flags over ruined worlds. They only destroyed fleets, silenced defenses, and moved on. It was as if they were not fighting enemies, but cleansing the galaxy of the disease of war. On Helaros, as the last defense stations crumbled, a surviving admiral of the Volari sent a desperate transmission to the Leviathan. Why humans, why do you fight like this? Why do you destroy all? What do you want? And for the first time, the Terrans answered, their voice calm and cold. We want what you could not make. We want an end. The message spread faster than the wreckage. Repeated by survivors, carried to every empire. The humans did not want to rule, they wanted silence. And their machines would carve it from the stars. When the battle was over, Helaros was nothing but ruins. Its fleets gone, its moons shattered, its defenses erased, but the planet itself remained. Scarred but alive, the Terrans did not finish it. They had made their point. The Leviathan was capable of destroying worlds, but it chose not to. The threat was enough. The survivors drifted in the wreckage, staring at the shadow of the Leviathan as it passed, fast and silent, its cannons cooling, its engines burning like suns, and in that silence, a truth spread across the galaxy. There was no more hope of victory. There was no more chance of resisting. The war none could end had found its final machine. The Leviathan was not just a ship. It was a message, a promise, a warning, and every ruler, every soldier, every citizen understood it. The humans had unleashed the end, and the galaxy would never be the same. The guns finally fell silent, and for the first time in centuries the galaxy heard nothing but the quiet echo of broken fleets drifting in the void. The endless war that had devoured worlds, slaughtered billions, and raged without purpose had stopped. Not because of treaties, not because of trust, but because humanity had unleashed machines that no empire dared face. The wreckage of Helaros still floated across the stars. Moons cracked open like broken shells. Dreadnoughts split apart, stations drifting as burning husks. Survivors clung to escape pods, staring at the black silhouettes of Terran ships as they moved in perfect formation, silent, calm, victorious. The Leviathan loomed in the distance, its vast hull glowing faintly, like a planet carved from steel, watching but not striking again. Across alien worlds, people trembled as news spread. The war that no one believed could end was over. Fleets were gone, armies broken, leaders silent. There were no more battles, no more bombardments, no more endless sieges, and yet, peace did not come with celebration, it came with fear. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, rulers sat in silence, their voices dead. For centuries they had shouted and threatened, demanded and betrayed, but now there was nothing to say. Every fleet they had trusted was gone. Every strategy shattered. Their power melted away with the fire of Terran cannons. They looked at one another and saw only weakness, only defeat. Some whispered of surrender, others of rebuilding, but deep down they all knew the truth. There would be no rebuilding, no resistance, not as long as Terran war machines patrolled the stars. Their silence was louder than any speech, their very presence a warning. Humanity had taken the galaxy by the throat, and all could do was submit in the streets of alien cities. Civilians who had grown up under the shadow of war stood in disbelief. For generations they had heard the roar of orbital bombardments, had seen skies filled with fire, had lived in fear of the next invasion, but now the skies were empty. The sound of guns replaced by silence. Children no longer woke to alarms, yet their parents wept, not with joy but with fear of the unknown. Because humanity had not spoken of ruling, they had not raised flags, they had not claimed planets. They had simply erased resistance. They left survivors alive, left worlds scarred but breathing, and moved on. It was as if they did not want the galaxy itself, only the end of its war, and that silence was more terrifying than conquest. The Council sent envoys desperate to open dialogue, to ask what the Terrans wanted, but the humans never answered. Their ships moved in the dark, their cannons watching, their drones scanning, but no words came. The only message they had given was the one at Helaros: "We want an end," and that was all. For the first time in history, empires demobilized their fleets, not because of treaties, but because there was no point. Any ship they built, any army they raised, would be erased, so they stopped. Weapons rusted in their docks. Soldiers returned to worlds they thought they would never see again. Planets scarred by centuries of war began to rebuild, slowly, nervously, under the shadow of Terran machines. And in that silence, a strange truth began to grow. Children born after the fall of Helaros would never know the roar of orbital fire. They would never see their skies filled with burning fleets. They would grow up in a galaxy without war, even if that peace came with the fear of humanity's gaze. It was peace nonetheless. Legends spread across the stars, stories whispered in marketplaces, in refugee camps, in the ruins of old battlefields, stories of the black ships that moved like shadows, of drones faster than light, of the Leviathan that split moons with a single shot. Some told these stories with terror, others with awe, and slowly they became more than fear. They became myth, and through it all, humanity remained silent. Their fleets patrolled the dark, their war machines waiting. No one knew if they would strike again. No one knew if they would fade back into the shadows. But every empire understood the same truth. War was over, not because they wanted it, but because the Terrans had forced it. In the quiet halls of the council, one alien ruler finally spoke, his voice tired, broken. "We thought the war would never end. We thought it was eternal, but humanity came and they ended it. Not with peace, not with mercy, but with steel." And none argued because all knew it was true. The galaxy would never forget the day the Terran war machines came, the day the endless war was silenced. And though fear lingered, though questions remained, one fact was carved into every mind, into every story, into every star. The war none could end had ended, and it ended with humanity.